So this week we're going to talk a little bit about some of the core principles that Science of Mind is all about. And we're going to do this by looking at a thing that is called what we believe. Before we go there, you all know that I love holidays. I love to celebrate. I love excitement. And so this is Labor Day weekend. And it's just another good excuse to celebrate as far as I'm concerned. You know, I believe that at the core of celebrating anything, even if it's just the sun coming up, what we're really celebrating is that divine principle at work. Because God is back of every bit of it, isn't it? Yeah, we get that here in this movement. So to me, any excuse for celebrating is a good excuse. Somebody emailed me this weekend and said, "Do you want to go on a retreat? We could go on a cruise." Da, 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 da. And I'm telling you, I couldn't sleep all night. I was planning on that cruise. Because that's the real celebration. So yes, but it's wonderful. So a little bit about Labor Day, just so that we know. Kind of a little history here. It was first celebrated in September of 1882, but there's a discrepancy about who started this. Now the thing that's funny about this question is that the two gentlemen that are kind of considered fathers, if you will, of the Labor Day holiday have very similar last names. And I just thought, how weird is that? The one gentleman, his name is Peter McGuire, and the other gentleman's name is Matthew Mugwire. And I just thought, oh, what's the chance of that? Okay, but there's still in the history of all of this, there's a little question mark. It was first celebrated in 1882, and I think it was celebrated in different communities, but in the same relative area by these two gentlemen. And so there's, the question will go, I guess, permanently unanswered as to who really founded it. It took Congress 12 years to decide that it actually should be a holiday, and by then 30 of the states had already made it one. So you can kind of figure out where the feds are in response to the rest of the state stuff, but it's a yearly tribute, really, to all of the stuff, everything that we have all done, the work, the time commitment, the love, the pouring out of skill and caring that has made this country what it is. And it's easy in these times to look at many things with our government, with our social world, with all kinds of things going on here in the United States, and to find fault in it. But guys, I was just thinking this morning, I drink a lot of water. I drink probably, 3/4 of a gallon of water every day. It's just one of my health things. There are so many places on this earth where people don't have that to take for granted. They don't even have the luxury of clean water, let alone appropriate food, let alone a choice. And so for all of the things that we would look at this country and find fault with, I think it is most important that we look at the things that we really are doing right. We all understand that if we are working with a small child, the way to encourage them is to recognize what they do well. And the same is true with our government, with our leaders, with our ministers, with all kinds of people, out there. That when we look at what people are doing right and we honor that, we open the space for them to do more of the same. Yeah. So we open that space for God to just shine a little brighter. So yeah, I think it's important that we recognize this, and that we recognize the consciousness that's behind a holiday that recognizes that all of us have contributed to this amazing thing that we call life here in these United States. It's pretty powerful, isn't it? We have a lot to be thankful for. We have a lot to thank ourselves for. And we have a lot to do, and we know that, I think. So, yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful time. Have a great holiday. And, they call it the end of summer. I don't know where I've been the last 3 months, but I'm really just kind of getting into summer at this point. So, yeah. So, I love history. I love things like that. And we're going to talk a little bit about the history of Science of Mind today. But I have to tell you guys that I came in here this morning, and, I came in the door, and I thought something feels really weird. something feels weird. And I was not sure what the heck was going on. But, you know, I've learned over the years that when something feels that different, I just need to hold still for a minute and let whatever it is land or download or whatever it is that happens. Well, you know, nothing happened, and I needed to get on with doing things, so I kept moving. And, of course, one of the things I do when I come in here is I make the coffee. And so about the second or third thing that I went to do was I went into the bathroom to get some water for the coffee. And in the sink, I found, alive, that long, in the sink, a lizard, okay? And I do not know who was more scared, me or, I think she was a girl because she had a big belly. And, you know, she didn't move fast. They're usually very quick on their feet. And she just didn't move fast. At first I thought, well, maybe, you know, she's left her physical self and gone on. Okay, she was alive. Now, you know, things like that creep me out, okay? I mean, and I have this, you know, I've been around Richard too many years. Richard Kimball, who's a practicing Buddhist, has come to our community for years and years, and Richard is all about the Buddhist tenet of you don't kill something that's alive. You set it free, put it outside, do whatever you can do. If there's any way you can do that. And I really practice that. In fact, I'm really proud of myself that I practice it so well that even these big, you know, kind of wolf spider things that Mike won't mess with them. He's like, spiders are your job, okay? I figured out the spider, you know, containment mechanism to get them outside, okay? He helps and keeps the cats in the house and opens the door, and I disperse the spider. But, you know, there was nobody here, and I knew Carol wouldn't be here, and I knew Kathy was coming, but I knew she was coming from Franklin. She probably couldn't get in here any quicker than she was already going to be here. So I was kind of like, well, what am I going to do? And I thought, well, do you have any tongs? You know, what do you have that you could get this little gal out of the sink and carry her outside with? Well, of course, then she started moving around, and she couldn't get out of the sink. Okay, she couldn't make it up the incline. So I thought, well, I don't have anything I could pick her up with, but what I did have was the lint roller, okay? And so I got the lint roller out of the drawer in there, and I went back in the bathroom. I had the bucket. I have a pitcher that I used to fill the coffee urn with. Come on, Sherry, come on in. Welcome. And so I took the bucket. I really, at this point, wasn't even sure that it was alive. She was alive, whatever it was. So I tapped on the side of the sink with the lint roller, and she moved, and I saw she couldn't get out of the sink. So I thought, well, maybe I can herd her into the bucket and carry the bucket outside, and that worked. And if you don't believe that story is true, I took pictures on my iPhone. I'll show them to you after the service. So she was quite a dandy, okay? And I think she probably was. She was a lizard in her bathroom sink this morning. It scared the you-know-what out of me. Yes.
You said she had a big belly, right?
She had a big belly.
Maybe she was pregnant.
I know. That's what went through my head, Ella, was that she's good. If I leave her there very long, we're liable to have babies in the sink, okay? And that was not really what I wanted to happen this morning during the service. So there we go. So there's my excitement for the day. Okay, my heart rate will probably come back down around 2 o'clock this afternoon after I go home.
I always wanted to see little baby hamsters.
Little baby hamsters, I bet they're cute. I bet they're cute.
Yeah. We're probably planning on a larger congregation.
The larger congregation. There you go. Well, and Ramsey pointed out that salamanders are a symbol representative of transformation. And isn't that what we're really all about? We are really all about transforming lives and changing the nature not only of the world for ourselves, but for the rest of the community out there, the rest of the world, the other side of the planet where it's nighttime right now. And for every species, from the ones that skitter, and thank God they skitter outside at this point, you know, and climb up the side of the wall, to the ones that fly. That's what we're about in this teaching and this movement. So, what we're going to talk about today is a little piece of what we believe. And you have a copy of this in your program today. The other name of it is the Declaration of Principles. This was put together in 1927 by the founder of Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes. And a lot of things happened in 1927. Ernest married Hazel Foster, and I mentioned earlier to somebody that Hazel was a very well-to-do woman. She had good connections, with the affluent people on the West Coast and the California area where he was, where Ernest was living. And she had good connections within the Hollywood community, if you will. And if you don't know it, many movie stars and people like that subscribed to the teachings of Ernest Holmes back then, even back then, when in the 1920s, when he was alive. So 1927 was a big year. Ernest got married. The Science of Mind magazine, which I don't have a copy of back there, but I meant to bring it, was birthed. The first edition came out in October of 1927. It will be 85 years old next month. So the whole edition will be about Ernest too. So it's pretty cool. And then the other thing that happened was a reporter came and talked to Ernest, and he said, "I want to know what it is you believe in." And so Ernest sat down, and in your program you've got a copy of it, of a tenet, a document that contains 13 principles. We're going to talk about a few of those today. We won't go through all of them. I don't want you to think that the service is too long for a Labor Day holiday, so we'll go through a few, and next week we'll do the rest. But Ernest sat down and he wrote these principles, these beliefs up into a very succinct fashion, and it is called the Declaration of Principles, or more commonly what I call it is what we believe. When he first wrote it, he wrote it in the first person, so it was what I believe, and many years later the powers that be adopted that, and this is a major, succinct understanding of what the teaching of Science of Mind is about. So it's a pretty cool thing. This, for me, things like this, and I have to tell you that, I know that for every one of us, we get to those places where we're like, really? This stuff works? Really? I don't see it working in my life. What do you mean? Tragedy happens every day. We lose the people we love. We have accidents. We have critters in the sink. We have all kinds of things, and we all get to that place, but for me, things like what we believe, things like our literature, are the lights that bring me back to a place of clarity. Many years ago, I had a minister say in my presence, and this has had a resounding impact on me. The minister said, either this stuff works or it doesn't work at all. You make the decision, because you can't sit on the fence with this. It either works or it does not. And I really don't want you to know how many times I've been backed up against the wall and just really thought, I'm not going anywhere with this. I'm not so sure this is what I need to believe in, because maybe it's not going to work. And that minister's voice has run through my head. Either this works or it doesn't work at all. You can't have it both ways. God doesn't say yes one minute and no the next, and take from one place and give to another. That's not the God we understand in this movement. And that's really what the very first of those statements is about. That first one reads, "We believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one, indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God." Now let's just take that apart a little bit. One, indestructible, absolute. That means there's only one power. There's only one presence. Not two, not good and evil. Okay? Not yes and no, or maybe. There's just one. Even those things that don't look like God, guess what? They are. Even those things that don't feel like God, nestled in there somewhere is the divine. It's like that joke of the little boy who came down on Christmas morning, and what he found was not exactly a pony. What he found was a lot of pony poo. But he got a smile on his face anyway, because he said, with all this poo here, there's got to be a pony. And sometimes we have to take life and sift through it. Sometimes it's not for us to know right off the bat where God is in something, is it? You know, I mentioned last week, that many years ago, I came out of a marriage in pretty much a traumatized state and didn't like my ex-husband and didn't really like me very much and sure didn't like the situation I was finding myself in, you know, life-wise, and the things I was having to rebuild and the toehold I was trying to have to scramble to get, okay? Today what I can do is look at that situation and tell you it was so perfectly ordained. Nothing could have ever served me better. I'll claim it now. Sure, I had something to do with that, but when it happened, I felt like, you know, this doesn't have my handwriting in it. I didn't create this mess. I love Edwina Gaines, the Unity minister. She said she spent many years of her life walking around looking at her life going, who created this mess? You know, well, guess what? You know, sometimes they're as close as the minister. You know, some they're as close as the face in the mirror. And you know, we might think that this whole idea of one power is new. No. Okay? If you look around, you can find a face of God in each thing, because He is not hidden in a church, in a mosque, or a synagogue, but everywhere. Now, I know many of you know who Rumi is. Yeah? Rumi the poet.
Who's Rumi?
That statement that I just read comes from Shamsi Tabrizi. Shamsi Tabrizi, if I'm saying his name right, I hope so, was Rumi's Iranian Muslim teacher and mentor. Yeah. So from that font of wisdom that we know as Rumi, from his teacher, came. It's in everything. So the second one, we believe in the incarnation of the Spirit in everyone, and that all people are incarnations of that one Spirit. This means that every one of us embodies God. Every one of us is the presence of God. Now, I don't know about you guys, but, you know, I go and I buy my groceries, and I'll be standing in the line, and I'll just be checking out the stuff in somebody else's buggy or looking at their toenail polish and going, you gonna eat that? Did you need to make them that color? What is that mess? That's, you know, I would probably have to be, you know, in a different consciousness, state of consciousness to be painting my toenails that color. You know? Very different state of consciousness, yeah. So, or maybe unconscious would be the term, you know? That's my personal opinion, okay? But what I know is that when I'm looking at somebody with those thoughts running around in my head, I'm not quite seeing them through the lens of truth, that's with a capital T, that's God I'm addressing. The same thing happens when we get into an argument with somebody. I used to live in a different part of Sylva, and I had an interesting relationship with my neighbors. You know, karma is really real, okay? There's really such a thing as cause and effect. And I'll just tell you, the short of the story is that I had a dog, and at that point in my life I was not particularly responsible with the dog. I allowed the dog to roam, and of course my neighbors didn't care for that too much. And that set up an interaction that lasted for 23 years, all the years I lived on that street. It was kind of interesting, okay? Well, about a month ago I was asked to feed another neighbor's cat while they were out of town, and so I went to feed their cat, and guess what came bounding across the street from that neighbor that I had had an issue with all those years, okay? Yeah, a totally, completely unschooled, out of control puppy that just wanted to kiss my face, okay? I'm not a puppy person. It was cute, though it was, yeah. So it learned the word down really quick, fortunately, so, or stop, or whatever I was telling it over and over and over. But you know, again, anytime we're in conflict, if we stop and remember, this thing over there, that's just as much God as I am. This person that seems so cranky when they get up in the morning, this individual with that on their toenails, that's God. You know, that's just another face of the divine. Yeah. You know, then we begin to let go of some of our stuff that separates us. And you know what? Here we go again. This concept that the incarnation of the Spirit is in everyone is not a new concept. It's prominent in Native American teachings. It's prominent in other world religions. It's there. Again, the truth is present if we just look for it. Another one. This one is kind of a trip. We believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul forever and ever, expanding. That just says that our soul is going to continue forever. That thing that we really are, that thing inside that person whose neck we would prefer to wring, guess what? Is a soul that we've probably been on this journey with over and over and over again. Who knows? Now that sounds a little, when you read that statement by Ernest, like we might believe in reincarnation. In this movement, we don't teach that. We don't teach that we believe it, or that it happens, or that it doesn't. Our response to that is no response, in that we leave it up to the individual to make that decision. Okay? It's up to you. We can't call it. The stuff that, what I have heard is that Ernest Holmes did not believe in reincarnation up until the very end of his life. And then, he kind of started thinking, well, maybe. Who knows? Okay? But that is beside the point. The point is that whatever we really are continues on. And all this thing that I wear as a body, it's nothing more than the clothing we chose to put on today. And someday we will drop it. But that which matters, that which we really are, is going to keep going forever and ever and ever. It lives forever. We live forever. Yeah. In the Science of Mind text that Ernest first wrote the first edition in 1926, and then came out with another book with the same title, very similar, but it's a different book, more expanded, in 1938. There's a whole chapter on immortality, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating reading. It's easy reading, too. I picked it up last night just to get more of an idea of what is it that Ernest tells us, because his teachings have been so profoundly important to my life and to transforming things. One more. This is number 4. We believe that heaven, and you'll notice that word is capitalized, heaven is within us, and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. Now this is one place where we really have a little bit of a differentiation between our teaching and things that are taught in a modern Christian setting. We all know that in a modern Christian world, heaven is a place that we go to. It's up there in the sky, and that's where we hope to go when we die. If we do enough good while we're here, then we get to go, right? So you come in, you either do it right or wrong, and you go, okay? Or you don't go there, you go here, okay? Well, Ernest Holmes looked beyond that a little bit in his teaching, and he said, heaven isn't a place that we go when we die. It's a place that we have the potential to live in all the time. It's a state of consciousness. It's a state of happiness. And even more than that, it's a state of understanding that we, in and of ourselves, there just is no separation from us and the divine. We can't cut God out of the mix. We don't have that ability. It is inherently who we are and what we are. I love the statement by Carl Jung that says, bidden or not, God is present. Can't get away from it.
I
Ain't gonna
just
leave.
got one more bid.
Won't run away. Can't take it off. Okay. Can't get outside of that. There's no way to do that. It's a knowing that we are one with God. And this is a big piece. It is the death of any kind of dualistic thinking. Meaning, I'm here and God's out there. Okay. I'm alone and I have to pander to it. I'm alone and I have to beg. I have to behave correctly. Think about believing like that in the way that we believe often as young children, where we feel like we have to do what we're told so that we get love in return. That's an old belief. We don't need that anymore. Pretty powerful. And so one last one. We believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. Now I'm going to start with the last part of that first. This goal is sure to be attained by all. It means it doesn't matter what color their skin is. It doesn't matter if they're toting a rifle or a child. It means that every one of us is going at some point to get to a place where what we see and feel and experience as discord has dropped away. It means that we are, as agents of the divine, living a program, if you will, okay, that takes us to a place where that inner struggle, where that inner fight, we don't fight with ourselves. We do it all day long. I do it all the time. You know, it's not as bad as it used to be. It's not where I'd like it to be, though. We keep working on it. You know, but that inner discord, that inner disharmony, that place that we go to that we would call doubt, that's history. It's gone. Okay. And the way that we get there is we just practice this ever more deeply. We get it on an ever deeper level, that we are God made manifest. There's no difference. There's no separation between the one who's hungry and the food they crave. There's no separation in the one who is seeking love and that which is love. Ornis teaches that we are that love. That's a nail, right? Yeah. We are that love. We are peace. We are wholeness. We are joy. We have only to dust the stuff off and find it, because it's there. We have only to get out of our own, if you will, way and let our own light shine. We have only to say yes to it, and the brilliance flares. This isn't a little power that we're talking about. This is the thing that hung that moon, that blue moon that we had 3 nights ago. This is the thing that makes babies. This is the thing that makes that squiggly thing I found in the sink, for God's sakes, this morning. Okay? Had me talking all kinds of Irish stuff, okay? Yeah, it was exciting. You know, this is the thing that makes it all. We are that thing, part and parcel. There's no separation. There's no delineation. It's only in our own mind, only in our own ego. And we can set that aside and claim the truth. That's what these things that we call what we believe do for me. Is they remind me back to that truth, back to that center, back to that place of wholeness, back to that place of love. So as you go this week, take your declaration home, stick it with the stuff you read in the morning, or stick it on your fridge, or strap it to your cell phone, or, you know, somewhere where you're going to see it more than before next Saturday night when you head back, start thinking about heading back this way, okay? And read one of those. We've talked about 5 of them today, okay? So pick 1, or 2, or 3, or 4, or 5. Pick any one you'd like, and read it in the morning, and think, how does that apply to me? What does that mean to me? If you've got, and I don't have a copy of it here, but if you've got this little book right here, Living the Science of Mind, sometimes it's got different covers on it, okay? In that book, you will find a whole expose on each and every one of these declarations, okay? Each and every one of these principles that Ernest Holmes wrote about, okay? So you'll get way more out of that than maybe, you know, just thinking about it, okay? But go through them and see what comes up for you. See what comes to mind. You know, meditate on them. Yeah. Next week we'll go through the other remaining, I think we have remaining 7 or 8. Yeah. So, as we go, know that you go in love. I love you.